This is the photograph that world leaders did not want you to see. For 2 centuries, the United States has operated on a simple principle. We might have disagreements with our allies, we might have trade disputes with competitors, but at the end of the day, American leadership provides stability and predictability to the global order. Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, every American president has understood that our power depends not just on military might, but on the trust and cooperation of nations around the world. But this morning, Friday, February 6th, 2026, at 11:17 a.m. Eastern Time, that era is over. Breaking news from the United Nations, the G20, and bilateral meetings across 6 continents reveals something unprecedented in modern history. The world is uniting against the United States, not against American values, not against the American people, against Donald Trump's policies. And the repercussions he is facing are not diplomatic protests or symbolic gestures. We are talking about coordinated economic sanctions, military planning that excludes the United States, technology transfer restrictions, and the active construction of a new global order designed specifically to contain and isolate American power. According to leaked diplomatic cables obtained by the New York Times, representatives from 47 countries held a virtual summit on Thursday evening to coordinate their response to what they are calling the Greenland crisis and broader pattern of American policy aggression. The participants included traditional U.S. allies like Germany, France, Japan, and Canada. They included strategic partners like India and Brazil. And critically, they included adversaries like China and Russia. For the first time since World War II, democracies and autocracies, developed and developing nations, East and West, are finding common cause against the United States. The unifying theme is simple. Trump's Greenland deal backfire has revealed that American leadership under Trump is corrupt, unpredictable, and dangerous to global stability. And if the United States will not restrain Trump through its own democratic processes, the world will restrain America through collective action. The repercussions Trump is facing include immediate economic measures worth $2.1 trillion in restricted trade, long-term strategic decoupling from American technology and financial systems, and the formation of alternative international institutions that deliberately exclude the United States. We are being isolated. We are being contained. And the man who promised to make America great again is instead making America alone. In this comprehensive analysis, we are going to document every dimension of the global backlash. We are going to show you the specific coalitions forming against us. We are going to reveal the economic weapons being deployed. And we are going to answer the question that should terrify every American. What happens when the world's only superpower becomes the world's only pariah? Buckle up. The repercussions are cascading, and the damage may be irreversible. To understand how we got here, you need to see the pattern that global leaders are responding to. The Greenland deal is not an isolated incident. According to analysis by the Council on Foreign Relations, Trump has violated, withdrawn from, or undermined 17 major international agreements since taking office in January 2025. 17. We are talking about trade agreements, security treaties, environmental accords, and diplomatic frameworks. The Paris Climate Agreement, rejoined under the previous administration, has been abandoned again. The Iran nuclear deal monitoring provisions have been violated. NATO cost-sharing agreements have been unilaterally rewritten. Trade deals with Mexico and Canada are being renegotiated under threat of tariffs. And now the Greenland fiasco has added corruption and personal enrichment to the list of American transgressions. Foreign leaders are drawing a conclusion. American commitments mean nothing. If Trump can tear up any agreement when it suits his political or financial interests, why would any nation trust the United States as a partner? This realization is driving the coordinated global response. According to sources who participated in Thursday's virtual summit, speaking to Reuters on condition of anonymity, the meeting was organized by the European Union, but attended by nations across all major regions. The agenda had 3 items. First, immediate economic countermeasures to Trump's tariffs and trade policies. Second, long-term strategies to reduce dependence on American economic and technological systems. Third, the creation of new multilateral institutions that can address global challenges without American participation or obstruction. Let us break down each dimension because the repercussions are both immediate and structural. The immediate economic countermeasures are breathtaking in scope and coordination. According to documents circulated at the summit and leaked to the Financial Times, participating nations have agreed to a 5-point action plan that goes into effect Monday, February 9th, 2026. Point 1. Reciprocal tariffs on American goods totaling $2.1 trillion in affected trade. This is not $2.1 trillion in tariff revenue. This is $2.1 trillion in trade flows that will be subject to punitive tariffs ranging from 25% to 75%, depending on the sector. The tariffs are specifically calibrated to cause maximum political and economic pain in the United States. Agricultural products from red states, manufacturing goods from swing states, technology exports from blue states. The entire American political map is being targeted simultaneously. Point 2. Restrictions on American participation in critical supply chains. 47 countries have agreed to prioritize non-American suppliers for rare earth minerals, advanced semiconductors, pharmaceutical ingredients, and other strategic materials. This is not a formal embargo. It is a coordinated preference system where American companies are systematically disadvantaged in procurement decisions. The effect is the same. American businesses lose market access. Point 3. Limitations on dollar usage in international trade. Participating countries will encourage or in some cases mandate that bilateral trade be settled in currencies other than the US dollar. The euro, the yuan, the yen, even digital currencies are being promoted as alternatives. According to currency analysts interviewed by Bloomberg, if even 20% of current dollar-denominated trade shifts to other currencies, it would reduce global dollar reserves by approximately $1.8 trillion. That would weaken the dollar, increase American borrowing costs, and accelerate inflation. Point 4. Disinvestment from U.S. Treasury securities. Foreign governments and sovereign wealth funds collectively hold approximately $7.6 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds. The action plan calls for a gradual but coordinated reduction of those holdings by 10% annually over 5 years. That is $760 billion per year in reduced demand for American debt. Who fills that gap? Either the Federal Reserve prints money to buy the debt, which causes inflation, or interest rates have to rise dramatically to attract private buyers, which crashes the economy. Point 5. Technology transfer restrictions. Countries are implementing export controls on sensitive technologies to the United States, mirroring the controls that the United States has imposed on countries like China. We are talking about restrictions on quantum computing components, advanced battery technology, next-generation telecommunications equipment, and biotechnology. The United States has long relied on global collaboration in these fields. Now that collaboration is being cut off. These are the immediate repercussions. But the long-term structural changes are even more devastating. According to the leaked documents, participating nations have agreed to begin construction of what they are calling resilient multilateral frameworks that can function without American participation. Translation: they are building a new global order that excludes us. The first framework is economic. The European Union, China, and ASEAN nations representing Southeast Asia are establishing a new trade architecture called the Global Economic Cooperation Agreement. According to details reported by the Wall Street Journal, the GECA would create preferential trade terms among participating nations, harmonize regulatory standards, and establish dispute resolution mechanisms that do not involve American courts or American-dominated institutions like the World Trade Organization. The combined GDP of GCA participants would be approximately $45 trillion. That is larger than the U.S. economy. For the first time, there would be a trading bloc powerful enough to set global standards without American input. American companies that want access to those markets would have to comply with rules they had no role in writing. The second framework is financial. According to reporting by the Financial Times, China and the European Union are collaborating on an alternative to the SWIFT international payment system that currently processes most cross-border financial transactions. SWIFT is dominated by the United States and has been used as a weapon to enforce sanctions and isolate countries like Iran and Russia. The alternative system, tentatively called the Multilateral Payment Network, would allow countries to conduct international transactions without American oversight or potential American interference. If the MPN becomes widely adopted, the United States loses a critical tool of economic statecraft. We could not sanction countries effectively because they could simply route transactions through the alternative system. The third framework is technological. According to leaked European Commission documents obtained by Politico, the EU and Asian partners are planning a $500 billion investment fund to develop semiconductor manufacturing, artificial intelligence systems, and quantum computing capabilities independent of American technology. The goal is explicit: end dependence on American tech companies and American innovation. Right now, American firms dominate global technology markets. Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, NVIDIA, and others are essential to how the world computes, communicates, and innovates. But if a $500 billion fund successfully develops competitive alternatives, American tech dominance ends. And with it goes the economic growth, the high-paying jobs, and the strategic advantage that the tech sector provides. The fourth framework is the most dangerous: military and security cooperation that excludes the United States. We have already discussed the Pacific Resilience Framework being built by Japan, South Korea, and Australia. But according to defense analysts interviewed by Jane's Defense Weekly, that framework is now being expanded and formalized with European support. The concept is a democratic security alliance that includes NATO members in Europe, Pacific democracies in Asia, and partners in Latin America and Africa. The purpose is mutual defense and security cooperation among democracies. But unlike NATO, which is led by the United States, this alliance would be led by a rotating council with no single dominant member. The United States would not be excluded formally, but according to the leaked summit documents, American participation would be contingent on demonstrated commitment to rule of law governance and respect for international norms. Translation: if Trump continues violating international agreements and norms, the United States is out. And even if a future president wants to rejoin, the damage to American credibility may be too severe. Why would allies trust that the next election will not bring another Trump who tears up agreements and starts trade wars? The uncertainty makes American security guarantees worthless. Countries will invest in their own defense capabilities or rely on multilateral frameworks rather than depending on the United States. American military bases overseas, the foundation of global power projection, could be asked to leave. According to sources in the German Foreign Ministry speaking to Der Spiegel, there are quiet discussions about whether Germany should request the removal of American troops and nuclear weapons from German territory. These are not official proposals yet, but the fact that they are being discussed shows how far trust has collapsed. The repercussions extend beyond government actions to private sector responses. Multinational corporations are reevaluating their exposure to American political and economic volatility. According to a survey of Fortune 500 CEOs conducted by McKinsey and reported in the Wall Street Journal, 73% of executives say they are considering reducing operations in the United States or diversifying supply chains away from American suppliers because of political instability and trade war risks. 73%. These are not political activists. These are business leaders making cold calculations about risk and return. And they are concluding that the United States under Trump is too risky. Manufacturing that might have been located in the United States is being built in Mexico, Vietnam, or Eastern Europe. Research and development centers that might have been in Silicon Valley are being established in Berlin, Singapore, or Tel Aviv. The exodus is quiet, but accelerating. American workers will not see the jobs that never arrive. American communities will not see the investments that go elsewhere. The long-term economic consequences are a slow-motion collapse of American competitiveness. But there is also a human dimension to the repercussions that Trump is facing. American citizens traveling abroad are encountering hostility and discrimination that did not exist before. According to reports compiled by the State Department and leaked to CNN, American tourists and business travelers are being denied services, subjected to enhanced scrutiny, and in some cases physically confronted because of anger at American government policies. Hotels in France and Germany are reportedly turning away American guests. Airlines based in Asia are giving preferential treatment to non-American passengers. American students studying abroad are facing protests and harassment on university campuses. This is not official policy. This is grassroots anger at America manifesting in ways that harm ordinary citizens who have nothing to do with Trump's decisions. The State Department has issued updated travel advisories for 17 countries, warning Americans to exercise increased caution due to anti-American sentiment related to the Greenland crisis and trade policies. This is humiliating. Americans are not used to being unwelcome abroad. We are used to being respected, even admired. The fact that our passport is becoming a liability rather than an asset shows how thoroughly Trump has destroyed American soft power. The academic and scientific community is also turning against the United States. According to reporting by Science magazine, major research institutions in Europe and Asia are restricting collaboration with American universities and laboratories because of concerns about political interference, funding instability, and intellectual property theft by the U.S. government. The European Organization for Nuclear Research, CERN, announced this week that it is reviewing American participation in its projects. The Human Genome Project's international successors are excluding American researchers from sensitive collaborations. This matters because scientific progress depends on international cooperation. The biggest challenges facing humanity, climate change, pandemic preparedness, space exploration, cannot be solved by one country alone. By isolating the United States scientifically, the world is ensuring that American researchers and institutions fall behind. The next generation of Nobel Prizes will go to scientists in other countries. The next major breakthroughs will happen in labs that are not American. We are losing the future because Trump could not see past his immediate financial interests. The repercussions are also manifesting in international organizations where the United States has traditionally held leadership positions. According to diplomatic sources speaking to Foreign Policy magazine, the United States is facing coordinated opposition to American candidates for leadership roles in the United Nations, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and other multilateral institutions. When these positions come up for election or appointment, coalitions are forming to block American nominees and support candidates from Europe, Asia, or developing nations instead. The United States is being systematically excluded from positions of influence in the global governance structures we helped create. This loss of institutional power compounds over time. The people who lead these organizations set agendas, allocate resources, and shape international norms. If those people are not American and do not share American priorities, the global system will evolve in ways that do not serve American interests. We built the post-World War II order to reflect American values and advance American security. Now we are watching that order be rebuilt without us. The political repercussions for Trump domestically are reaching a critical threshold. According to the latest polling data from multiple sources, Trump's approval rating has fallen to 28%, the lowest of any president in modern polling history. But more significantly, the intensity of disapproval is unprecedented. 64% of Americans strongly disapprove of Trump's performance. Among Republicans, his approval has dropped to 53%, a catastrophic number for a president relying on his base. Congressional Republicans are in open panic. According to reporting by Politico, the Republican National Committee held an emergency meeting on Thursday where party leaders discussed whether to formally distance the party from Trump's trade and foreign policies. The concern is that association with Trump's failures will destroy Republican candidates in the 2026 midterms and make the 2028 presidential race unwinnable. But distancing from a sitting president creates its own problems. The MAGA base still supports Trump at fanatical levels, even as his overall numbers collapse. If the Republican establishment turns on Trump, the base might stay home or vote for third-party candidates, splitting the vote and guaranteeing Democratic victories. The party is trapped. Support Trump and lose independents and moderates. Abandon Trump and lose the base. There is no good option. Democratic strategists see the opening and are preparing to exploit it ruthlessly. According to sources inside the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee speaking to the New York Times, Democrats are planning to make the 2026 midterms a referendum on one simple question. Do you want to continue the chaos, corruption, and global humiliation of the Trump presidency, or do you want to restore American competence and credibility? Every Democratic candidate will be armed with examples of Trump's failures. The Greenland corruption, the trade war economic damage, the collapse of alliances, the international isolation. The polling suggests this message will resonate. 67% of Americans say the country is on the wrong track. 59% say Trump's foreign policy has made America less safe. 71% say the economy is getting worse. These are numbers that predict a political realignment. But the most severe repercussion Trump is facing is one he may not fully comprehend. He has made the United States a declining power, not temporarily, not reversibly, permanently. The institutions, relationships, and trust that made America the indispensable nation took 75 years to build. Trump has destroyed them in 13 months. Even if Trump leaves office tomorrow, even if the next president is a brilliant diplomat who tries to rebuild bridges, the damage is structural. Other countries have seen that American democracy can elect someone like Trump. They have seen that our system allows a corrupt, self-interested president to weaponize American power for personal gain. They have learned that American commitments last only until the next election. Why would any rational nation build their security or economic strategy on a foundation that's unstable? They will not. They will build alternatives. They will diversify away from America. They will create systems that do not depend on us. And over time, those alternatives will become the new normal. American power will decline not because we were conquered or because our economy collapsed, but because we made ourselves irrelevant. History will record the Greenland deal as the moment when American hegemony ended, not with a dramatic war or crisis, but with a corrupt real estate scheme that revealed the emptiness of American leadership. As we close this analysis, understand the stakes. The repercussions Trump is facing are not political theater. They are the systematic dismantling of American global influence. The economic measures will cost jobs, raise prices, and reduce living standards for average Americans. The strategic isolation will make us less safe and less able to shape global events. The institutional exclusion will mean that the rules governing trade, security, technology, and human rights will be written by others. And the loss of trust will ensure that even when America tries to lead again, the world will not follow. Watch what happens in the next 10 days. Watch to see if the economic countermeasures go into effect as planned. Watch to see if the alternative institutions gain traction. Watch to see if more countries join the coalition against American policies. But most importantly, watch to see if the American people demand accountability. Because the world is uniting against Trump's policies, but the consequences fall on all of us. Subscribe and stay vigilant. The world order is being rewritten, and America is being written out.